County borrowing, and on the page 4 of the Standard, we have the story. It's also on the Daily Nation, and county governments will only be allowed to borrow 5% of their audited revenues. The money should only be borrowed from the Central Bank of Kenya and repaid within a year. And even before asking CBK for that loan, the devolved units must have such requests approved by their county assemblies and must be to meet their budget deficits. Now, this is according to the intergovernmental meeting chaired yesterday by Deputy President William Ruto at his current office, and it is meant to tame debt pile-up and wasteful spending by counties. Now we have 3 senators here and a lady who aspires to be a women representative for Kisumu County, and of course matters to do with the county are very key and very close to your heart. And do you see the sense in this? Let's start with you, Senator Matangi.
Absolutely. To begin with, as I said earlier, I'm a member of the Public Accounts Committee and in the Senate, and this is where we literally dissect these issues of borrowing by counties and county governors and the expenditures they incur during the year. And nothing would be better timed right now than that capping of the amount and conditions also under which governors can borrow, because right now, let me first say to the members of the public who are watching us this morning that indeed the Senate has already formed a special team to look into pending bills in counties, because when the report came on how much is owed by counties in pending bills, it is unbelievable. It's a shocker, and if those were to be presumed to be debts to be paid as it is, you'd find some counties would be paying those debts for the next 50 years without any development going on. And so what this has done is to bring sobriety and responsibility and sense, because there are some individuals, some governors who got into office and thought that this is the time for them to move from ordinary wananchi as they came into office to be multi-billionaires. And spending in counties has been irresponsible, wanton, and uncalled for. And so I think this is going to help. We have seen, I remember in the Accounts Committee, looking at a case whereby a governor just simply goes to the bank to borrow money to give interest for people to travel on a trip to the United States. I mean, you can imagine going to incur a debt that you're going to pay interest on so that you can give people, they want to go and travel and see the world and enjoy some luxury, and that time you're paying interest on that loan. And that's how irresponsible it has been. So, and especially now limiting it to 5% of revenue, and I must say this must be net revenue. That's the way it should be made. Net revenue. Yes. So it's like that borrowing is at its minimum, and of course the conditions must be so strict that it is only when it is necessary. You know what this will do as I finish? This will encourage counties now to generate more revenue, to be more responsible, such that where they have streams of in their markets, in other innovative thinking where they can raise money locally, they will start doing that. And I believe the way forward, if you ask me, is to also gradually ensure that these monies that we are devolving to counties, that we are sending in terms of allocations, although they may increase or they will increase, there should be such tough regulations that the free-for-all expenditure is also completely halted. Now, somebody will be knowing when I go to office, I will have to generate revenue, ensure that I develop my county, and as I exit, I'm not going to leave the next incoming governor with a burden of debt that they can never pay. And you find, as one of my colleagues was saying here as we were exchanging notes, that you find you could go into office, become a governor in a county, and the only thing you'll do for your entire 5 or 10 years is pay debts, and people will be saying, this fellow is hopeless, he cannot develop the county, and yet what you are doing is just paying debts which were incurred by somebody who is walking free.
Yes, Rosabu, of course there's good debt and bad debt, and some of these counties may argue that sometimes they borrow from local banks in anticipation of passage of their budgets, and probably there are some development projects that are going on, and you know the money will come. come, probably even a disbursement from government will come, but we need money now to do something, and local banks are offering this cash.
Yeah, but remember, Indimuli, that your budget does not include the interest that you're going to incur when you borrow from these local banks. Okay? So as you borrow from the local banks, you have an extra cost that's not included in your budget. So you have to look for that money to cover that interest. And the real essence of devolution was to actually better the lives of every Kenyan, regardless of what part of this country they were in. But what some of the governors seem to think is that devolution actually was brought to give them autonomy to actually spend whatever they want to spend and however way they want to spend it, and to borrow whatever amount they want to borrow. That was not what the essence of devolution. And when they continue to borrow and we see people's lives not improving, then there's no devolution. We beat the purpose of devolution. But I want to say that what my colleague has said is really true. It encourages these governors or the counties to actually look for ways and means to increase their revenue collection. And only if you do that can you borrow that 5%. So if you don't have any revenue that you've created, you will not borrow that 5%. And I also like the way it's been capped at 5%, because it sort of streamlines the amount that you can borrow. But you cannot say 47 counties or 47 governors can continue to borrow from wherever they want, whenever they want, without any checks and balances of the financial performance of their counties. I think we'd be drawing Kenya really down the drain. And if we had proper checks and balances, should we not consider allowing counties to borrow from banks as well, other local banks as well? Because you know the central government does the same.
You know, we have seen the amount of profits being made by commercial banks. Very outrageous profits, and largely some of these profits are being made from borrowings or loans being extended to county governments. If we speak right now, a lot of banks are just enticing governors with all this manner of loans, that you can be able to make a phone call to a bank manager, you will be given 2 million, 5 million will be arranged, you will get it, and you will pay in the course of the month. Those kind of weird things that are happening. But I think it is important. You will be shocked, Fred, that if you go to counties, most of the counties are collecting way below what local authorities were collecting. There are a lot of, despite the fact that they have expanded the taxation avenues within counties, they are collecting 40%, 60%, 30% of what local authorities were collecting. By pegging this percentage on revenue generated locally, as my colleague said, the county governments will have to work extra hard to ensure that they are able to collect, to seal the loopholes and be able to collect more. Two, that the law currently as it is indicates that they must get, clearance from Treasury. As we speak, very few counties have had to go to Treasury to seek for, approval of Treasury to borrow. So I think this is not an entirely new concept. It exists within the law. It's only that we have to tighten it to ensure that every borrowing, and I hope we could even go a little further and indicate that this kind of borrowing should not go to recurrent expenditure. Let us, borrow for purposes of development. Let us not get into a situation where you have to borrow to support, MCAs or to support county officials to go on a foreign trip. I think those kind of the tightening of these regulations and borrowing by counties would, in the long run, facilitate. Look at the challenge that we are facing at national government. The national debt is a big challenge that has been pushed from from government to government. We do not want counties that are supposed to be starting from a new slate to start engaging in borrowing, and in another 10 years you are hearing that Nandi County has a debt of 2 billion and you are left wondering, how do you cover up? So I think this is a very important development. But as you said, counties have already been borrowing from commercial banks, and Senator Khalwale, we know you aspire to be governor of Kakamega County. If at all you got that job, do you think the debt issue is something that you will definitely have to deal with in Kakamega?
What IBEC did yesterday, and therefore today's announcement, is very commendable. However, they are just emphasizing the fact that our county assemblies are not functional. Why? Because Article 212 of the Constitution clearly speaks to the issue of borrowing by county government, and it says that a county government can only borrow on 2 conditions. 212A, it can borrow so long as that loan is guaranteed by the county, the national government, and 212B, on condition that it is approved by the county assembly. Now, legislation has gone further and provided that this approval by the county assembly should only be limited to short-term loans that are repayable in 12 months. So if county assemblies were functional in the country, then the wanton borrowing that has been spoken to correctly by Rosa and my brother Kimani would not be taking place, because then county assemblies would be insisting, we approved this loan because we thought it made sense, and we want evidence that at the end of 12 months the loan has been repaid in full. So I think when they said yesterday, because they saw that this is now not happening, they chose now to go the route of Article 190 of the Constitution that provides, Ndimuli, that county governments can only operate financial management systems in accordance to the national legislation. So what the national government is now doing, they want to stop these small county governments from rushing to any bank, including KREP and all manner of small banks, so that they now come to central bank. I hope that I have not read their report. Once I read it, and my colleagues will do the same, there might actually be need, and I'm glad lawyer is here, there might be need for us to see if we should do further legislation to give the force of law to the announcement by IBEC. Finally, this is a good point for which I should tell Kenyans some good news. If the borrowing is for development, we should encourage it by all means. Let me give you 2 examples, and I'm very sorry that Governor Mbudia will not kill me. I hope he won't kill me. Let me give you 2 examples of Nakuru County Government and Bomet County Government. In Nakuru Government, the Controller of Budget has found that they are unable to spend more than 10% of their total resources in the county on development. Whereas in Bomet, where my brother Isaac Ruto sometimes gets a lot of beating from Jubilee, the guy is doing very well. He spent 48.4% on development. This is way above the 30% that is provided for under the County Government Act. So good things are happening. If it is a guy like Isaac Ruto who is now borrowing, I would be glad to allow him to borrow, but not a guy like Mbugua, who is an
This takes us back. Okay, I'm not in parliament, but I still keep myself abreast with what
you aspire to go there.
Not just aspire is too negative. I'm going to get in there.
Okay.
So it takes me back to what power is grabbed. It takes me back to what Senator Sang previously tried to introduce into the Senate, the county coordinating committee, where at least you will have the senator, you'll have the woman rep, you'll have a team, not being the executive, but a team being in discussion and actually looking at ways and means in which the county can move on. In such a case, you would actually not be finding this sort of spending where the governor has autonomy. He can do what he wants and he can do what he chooses to do. But you'd have actually a team with the interest of the county at heart, sitting and actually discussing and charting the way forward for the county. I wish that had passed, and I hope that it will still come, and I hope it will be passed, because there'd be more accountability at the county level.
Yes. Another discrepancy that's happening at the county level, because I need us to move on to another